Hello and thank you for joining us. You're listening to a We Do Talk with David Jaques.
Welcome to this week's We Do Talk. I'm actually at the We Do headquarters in Valencia, Spain, and I have a guest joining me from South America. So here am I, a non-Spanish speaker in a Spanish-speaking country, and I have a native Spanish speaker joining me from Santiago, Chile. We have Gabby Rincon. So Gabby, a very good afternoon to you. Welcome to We Do. Thanks so much for joining me today.
Thanks to you for the invitation. So glad to be here.
So Gabby is an English teacher, a language teacher, but not a very conventional language teacher. She did have a conventional career teaching in elementary, high school, university, and in corporations. But a few years ago, she saw the opportunity to take her business to the internet and really start her own business, English Priority, in which she helps people navigate the English language world in business. So, Gabby, I would imagine that you're not teaching beginners of English. These are people who are already experienced English speakers who want to enhance their skills even further.
We're working with professionals who need to improve their English, right? It's like they already have an intermediate level, but they need to scale, they need to improve their English so they can scale their careers, they can advance their careers because that's like a barrier they have.
Now, I'd love to talk to you about the different places you've worked because I know that you are originally from Venezuela and you're right now in Santiago, Chile. How prevalent is the English language in South America in the business world?
If you want to work for an international company in South America, you need at least an intermediate, level of English so they can communicate effectively. And it depends on the country. It is like, Chile, Argentina, Brazil. I mean, these countries there are a lot of international companies in these, countries, and people are also looking for remote opportunities. So it doesn't matter where you work in South America. People are, starting to go into these remote job opportunities. They are taking these remote job opportunities. So it's like it is expanding now more than, ever, obviously, because of the pandemic. And so a lot of people are interested.
And how did your business start? When you started the business, what was the beginning of it? What was the origin? How did it happen?
Great. Okay, so, I've been here in Chile for 3 years now, but as you were saying, I'm from Venezuela. So I started teaching, 15 years ago since I finished, university. And I started teaching kids and then teaching, in institutions, at university, the two most important universities in my country. Actually, I studied in a pedagogical university and then I taught in that university too. But then I started working in companies because I really like this, corporate world and this business English, environment. So I started working with companies. Then, all this political, economical situation in Venezuela started getting worse. For teachers, it's not easy. It doesn't matter where you live. For teachers, it's not easy. But in my country, it was even harder. So, and I have a son. Now he's 10 years old, but by the time he was like 7 or something. So it was really hard, to take him to, I don't know, to the park or buy him, basic stuff for school. And my husband and I were like, we got to do something about it. And we decided to immigrate to Chile. He left first. And 6 months later, I came here. Before coming here, I was teaching, right, at corporate. And I was like, okay, but if I move, I need a job, right? And I have a son. So it's not like I'm going to get there and I will find a job, so easily. I had some issues with my papers. So I didn't have a passport. So it was going to be a little harder for me to get my legal papers here. So I was like, I need to do something that I can continue doing in Chile. And then I started, teaching online. But it was crazy because the internet connection in my country is terrible. So it's like I was with the students and suddenly, I was alone, like I was not there. And then it was like, oh, I'm sorry, the connection, blah, 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 like, but they stayed with me, even though we had all this, uncomfortable situation. So I was teaching like for 5 months online. Actually, one of the students was on the phone. I mean, I was in the living room with my phone and I was talking to him, and he had in his computer, he had the PDF of the book and the audios, and I had my computer, and I was like, interacting with him on the phone. So I know that if people are willing to learn, it doesn't matter, like they will find the way. So that's how it all started. Then I had to wait a lot for my passport, and I didn't get the passport. So I was like, you know what? I'm leaving, right? I'm leaving with my ID, my identification card. I'm not waiting for the passport because I waited like for 3 years, and I paid like, I don't know, $5,000 or something. And that is too much money in my country. So
Yeah.
I told my husband, like, you know what? This December, I'm leaving. Like my boss, my son and I alone. He was not that happy at the beginning. Like, are you sure you're going to do that? And I was like, yes, I have to. So I, like contact some, like companies, some traveling companies, and I found one. I talked to them. I bought the tickets. My husband sent me the money because, I mean, the issue at the time when I came here was not about money, because my husband tried to send us money to Venezuela. The point is that we couldn't find things to buy. Like you went to the supermarket and there was nothing. So I told him, I mean, it's not about money. It's that there's nothing, you see? So I took the decision, like, I don't know, don't care. I know it's going to be hard, but we deserve it.
When people migrate from one country to another, which is something that I've done myself, I migrated from the UK to the US and I just got on a plane. And sure, you have to move a lot of things and it's a whole transition of life. But I never really occurred to me that the traveling from one country to another when you're migrating would be so difficult and so arduous. So I can't imagine. I mean, I'm a parent, my kids are older now, but traveling alone with a young child must have been a hugely intimidating thing to do. It must have been pretty scary for you.
Yes, but I mean, what we were going through, I mean, like the experiences we had and all the limitations we had were even scarier. Like I was more scared of staying and not doing anything and not growing, as a professional, and not giving my son the opportunities he deserves, rather than traveling for, I don't know, well, it was supposed to be 7 days, but it was not. So I was like, I mean, I know it is scary. My husband was like, do not do that. And I was like, I will do it. So it was hard. My family was, like, are you sure? Like, there's so many stories of people, like having problems, and I was like, I'll do it.
Well, you made it there. And how long did it take you to get in the end from Venezuela to Santiago?
The trip, it's supposed to last like 7 days, right? From Venezuela, then you cross Colombia, Ecuador, Peru, and then Chile. But for us, it lasted like 11 days or 10 days because I don't know. I mean, there was a group in a bus, and when we were, like showing our papers in the frontier between Ecuador and Peru, the bus left us. I mean, the bus was not there. And we were like, okay, let's wait. I don't know. Probably they are eating. Probably they are, gas. I don't know, whatever. The point is, like 5 hours passed and they didn't come back for us, and they didn't answer the phone. And I mean, they had the other half of the money, because we paid the whole thing. So obviously I freaked out, but it was a group, like we were all together since the beginning of the trip. So we were like, okay, we have to do something about it. We're not coming back, obviously. We have to continue with the trip. So I called my husband. He had to send me money on Western Union. I had to exchange money, like the rates and things like that. And then we had to start looking for our own buses. We had to look for our own accommodation during those days, during the trips, because it's like, we were on the road for 11 days. It was not like traveling on an airplane that you get into hours, but we were inside of a bus 11 days. So I know for my son, well, I don't know, I'm so, blessed that he was, nice with it. There were other children in the bus, so they were, like playing and stuff. But it was so scary,
Yeah.
It was really scary. Yeah. When we got to the frontier with Chile, from the frontier to Santiago, there's like 2 more days. So my husband called me and he was like, I found a way to give you a ticket, so you can fly from the frontier to Santiago, and obviously you can save those 2 days. And I was like, oh my God, finally. So it was like 10 days, because I remember we left December 17th and we got here in Santiago December 28th.
So you got to spend Christmas on the bus with your son traveling through all of those countries.
Yes, December 24th and 25th, we were on the road.
Well, you made it safely, that's the main thing, and just in time to start a new year. So 2019,
Yes.
you were able to start your new life in Chile. And how was that transition for you once you got there, after such an arduous journey and changing countries? Things are very different. How was it both from a family standpoint to be able to get settled in, get your son settled into a school, and also then for your business? So let me ask you about family first. How was it socially and family? How was that transition?
Well, for my family, the family we left in Venezuela. These 11 days, and for my husband, these 11 days were, like the worst days, in their lives, because, and I got, oh my God, I forgot this. I don't know, somebody stole my phone in Peru in the bus. It was like everything was, and some of the people who were, traveling with us, they lent me, like their phone, and I could call my husband and all the stuff. But I was without a phone, like for 3 days. And at the beginning, people ask me about the transition and how, if it was difficult for me to adapt, but it was not. In my case, staying in Venezuela was so hard, and traveling, leaving the country was so hard, that when I came here, I was like, oh, Jesus, finally. You see, so for me, it was a relief.
Yeah.
I know there's a lot of people like, oh, I suppose it was difficult to change another country. And I was like, no, it was not. For me, it was, like the best decision I could have taken.
And then how was it transitioning your business? So did you bring clients with you that you had before from Venezuela? Did you start over? How did that work?
Yeah, well, that was the idea. When I started teaching online in Venezuela, that was the idea. So I had like 5 students, and all of them were like the sister and the, cousin and the best friend, like people, word of mouth. So there were like 5 students. And when I came to Chile on, like December 28th, 29th, I was like, guys, let's, like New Year. And so I took those days to rest, to settle, to, like digest everything that was going on. And, like the following Monday after New Year, I was, like online with my students. And they were so happy, because for the first time, I could be, like for an entire hour without interruption. And then I was open, like, guys, if you know anyone who's interested in learning, let me know. And a company from here in Chile contacted me, and they asked me, for a program for their teams. And I was excited because that's what I really liked, like working with companies. And so I started with that company, and they gave me like 10 students, 10 employees who became my students. And yeah, that's how it all started.
And who do you serve today? Do you work just with corporations? Do you work with individuals, or is it both?
Yeah, it is. Right now, I'm working with corporations, but I only have one company because I'm working with individuals too. I have this business program that I teach in groups, like small groups, 4 or 5 people. I launch the program every 4 months and every quarter. And the program lasts 3 months. So I work with these individuals. Now, I also have a lot of people who are beginners or intermediate, but they don't have the level to join the business program. So I hire a teacher. She studied with me in Venezuela, and she's here in Chile too. And she's teaching, like beginners and intermediate to prepare them to join the business program.
And what is your vision for the business now? Where do you think you can take it? That sounds like it's a great opportunity.
It is. And it's a huge responsibility too, but yeah, I just want to like expand, and I really want to hire teachers to work with me, especially people who were in my situation, because I know how hard it is, and I know how underpaid professors are, especially in South America. So it would be amazing if I can have like more teachers helping me with the programs, and obviously I can help them, and I can help more people. We have this speaking club. I created a free speaking club like 2 years ago. It's running on Saturdays. It is free, and I've been doing that for free since like the pandemic started, and it's still free. I know people need like safe places to practice. So, and that's a way to call people's attention to, like to get them into our world.
I always think with language learning, the big change point is when you lose the inhibition, because the beginning, people are learning a language, they're very conscious, they're very self-conscious of making a mistake and their pronunciation and their grammar, and they have to think really carefully. But once you can lose that inhibition, and you can then really start to communicate without having to think about everything too deeply, that's the key point. That must be very gratifying when you see somebody get to that point when they can relax and feel safe and just be able to flourish.
Absolutely. That's the goal. Actually, in our, like an English priority, our core values are those, like community, commitment, right? Because we really want to create a safe space for people to feel confident, right? Because I'm a non-native speaker, and I know how frustrating it is, how scary it is to speak in front of people, especially in the business context. That is so important, and whatever you say is so important. So
And you're absolutely right what you say about a sense of community, because one of the things that we're really building here at We Do is that sense of community, because we really want to support people like yourself who are freelancers, independent workers, creative people, people who are building their own businesses. And that can be a very scary thing to do if you're used to working for the corporate world and then you just go into something that is very independent. Anywhere that you go which is new and is different and is maybe even a little uncomfortable, if you can get that sense of community and realize that you're not alone, it makes a huge difference, don't you think?
absolutely, absolutely, it does. And one of the main things in our community is practice. So in the membership, we open different like rooms for them to practice during the week. We give them feedback, because it's also about feedback, right? We had the free
Yeah.
speaking club, and people were practicing, but then they had like the same mistakes. So we decided to create a membership to give them some, at a low price. We could give them some feedback and some like workshops and some content if they are not able to join any of the programs. they have this, like low ticket offer, and they take advantage of it. So it's really helpful.
Gabby, one thing I'd like to ask you about the business world and the general cultural world in South America. As I say, we tend to support a lot of people who are freelancers, people who are creative. How is that world in South America? Is there great opportunities right now for people who are creative and who have ideas? What opportunities are out there for them?
There are many. I think we just need confidence. You need to have something good to offer, right? Offering it in a way that people understand how important it is, how is it going to help them, and that's it, because there's a market. It is really important, and the online business is growing a lot. E-learning in South America is growing a lot. So there are opportunities, but of course it's like you have to work. You have to make it
Yeah.
work. You have to use some strategies, like, for example, that's free speaking club we have, that membership we have. I mean, offering value so people can feel, like motivated to join you. But yes, there and online. I mean, after the pandemic, is like everything,
Yeah.
is online. So people understood that it is possible to learn.
And I've heard that some countries in South America, I think Chile is one of them, have made huge investment into internet infrastructure.
Yes, yeah. Well, obviously, we have to make the exception of Venezuela. I think Argentina is having issues too. But I don't know, like generally speaking, if Peru is okay, Chile is okay, Brazil is okay. So there are, opportunities. There's a good, like infrastructure. I know that obviously in my country is really hard. Colombia is really good too, in this sense. And there's a lot of e-learning happening in Colombia too. So yeah, I mean, opportunities are there. You just have to create them and go for it.
Gabby, this has been wonderful having you share your thoughts and your story with me, and thank you very much for that. But before we wrap up, if anybody is interested in contacting you, what's the best way to reach you?
Yep, www.englishpriority.com. That's it. There's the website, englishpriority.com. There you have our free speaking club, you have our membership. There's an Instagram too, English Priority too. So, yep.
And we connected initially on LinkedIn, of course, and I think most people are on
Yes,
there, most professionals are on there.
absolutely. Absolutely.
Well, Gabby, it's been a pleasure talking to you today. And once again, thank you for your time. Thank you for your story and for telling us about that journey that you had, which you and your son will probably never forget. You'll be able to talk about it for many years. And thanks again. And I wish you every success for the future, for English Priority, and for everything that you do. And I'm sure you will be very successful. And I'd love to keep in touch.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much. I've gone through really hard times, but I've made my way out of it, and I know people can do it too. So it's like I always motivate people that it doesn't matter how hard things are, you can make it, you can make things happen, but you have to make them happen, right? They're not going to happen to you, but you have to take, like the big leap and do the thing. So thank you so much for sharing my story and for having me here. I'll keep in touch.
Yeah. Thanks again, Gabby. And thank you everyone for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. We upload a new video every week. Please subscribe to our channel, leave your comments below. And until next time, be well, make it happen.
We upload a We Do Talk every week. So if you enjoyed this one, please subscribe and leave your comments below.